Welcome to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. This week we interview artist, comic creator, musician, and educator Caleb King. Unfortunately, Chris was unable to join me for our interview with artist and musician Caleb King. Sometimes life gets in the way of a good podcast. However, I hope you enjoy my solo effort in talking to Caleb. Caleb King is an illustrator and writer who makes his home in Joliet, Illinois. He's published fantasy comic projects and is also an officially licensed artist for Lucasfilm, Marvel, DC Comics, Netflix, Hulu, and a ton of others. He's also a veteran of the music industry, touring and recording here in Joliet and around the country. And finally, he is also an educator, teaching art and music from his home in Joliet for years, including my daughter. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so happy you're
Good.
here.
Well, thanks. That bio makes me sound pretty impressive.
Well, to be fair, I cut it down a little bit. There's even more. I'm hoping to ask you about some of this other stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a many years of random chaos that condense into a nice little about me. So
Now, are you originally from the Joliet area?
yeah, born and raised. There's periods of time where I've lived, outside of the area. Parents had to, move for a job or something, but those were like less than a year, and then we would come back.
The main reason I asked is because, Joliet's probably not the first place someone thinks of as, hey, this is where I'm going to set up my home base if I'm going to be an artist and a musician. And it seems to have worked for you from looking at all the stuff on your bio.
The interesting thing is it's always like this Chicago area here, and I say area because if I claimed to be from Chicago, the actual Chicago natives would have me assassinated. But this is a great launching point if you're going to tour like around the Midwest or anything in like any kind of a local band. There's a lot of places you can get within 6 to 8 hours in a vehicle, and it's got more short flights if you're at that point. It's a good home base. It's Joliet is predominantly a blue collar town, and it's a great place. I've towns that I feel like you can make fun of it if you live here, but if it's like your brother or your sibling, like if somebody else picks on it, you're gonna throw fists, but you're totally allowed to pick on them.
You,
So
uh, I think you just described all three of my kids who were born and raised in Joliet.
yeah.
That's exactly how they treat this area. My daughter lives in Philadelphia right now, but she will stand on a corner in Philly and fight everybody if they make fun of her hometown. I
Oh
swear.
yeah, and you know what? Hey, if she's in Philly, she's gonna have some mean chops, by the time
Yes, yeah,
she
she's
comes back.
learning it. One of the things you brought up that is interesting to me only because we interviewed a gentleman named Tim Plaker, who's a music promoter and musician who plays around
Hmm.
Joliet, and he
Yeah,
talked about the fact that the geography of Joliet is helpful for promoting shows, for example, and for people
sure.
that are touring because of the fact that we're kind of right at the confluence there of 80 and 55 and so
Yeah.
close to Chicago. It does make some sense, but it's still interesting to me because, again, you're very involved in the comics industry. Obviously, you've got art that's related to comics and unrelated to comics, and you do your own work that's in that area as well.
Yep.
Interesting to me that you can do all of that from home, although I guess in our post-COVID world, that's not as unusual as maybe it used to be.
Yeah. It's been an interesting evolution from post, or pre-COVID lockdown kind of ways that industries work, and this post, post COVID, pre and post plague era.
Right.
The nice thing about being an illustrator and an artist in this context is that a lot of the illustrators, whether you're major comic book artists or you're independent guys, a lot of it is all. I mean, the majority of it is done remotely. There's no
Hmm.
big offices comic book artists are going into anymore, like in the golden age era. where they would work as kind of a community, and you would have the writers or the other artists and editors kind of all like, you would go to a job and it would be a room or a series of rooms like that. It's changed dramatically to where you don't have to be in that environment anymore. You can
Right, right.
work from home.
You don't have Stan Lee's office down the hall there where, and then a bullpen where everybody's sitting at boards drawing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There was when I was, I hate to say growing up, but when I was in my teens and I was reading comics where I had kind of discovered them for the first time, it was right around the era where, and I'm going to use terms that maybe people aren't familiar with, but like they're, the big heavy hitters were Marvel and DC Comics, and they still are the two major brands.
Sure.
But nowadays, there's a lot more independent companies. But the first real major contender for an alternative to Marvel and DC was Image Comics that came out in the 90s. And Image was started by a bunch of guys who were industry fan favorites that decided that they wanted to own the rights to the things that they created rather than the big companies. And so they founded Image Comics on the idea that it was creator comics owned by the creators themselves, not corporations. And these guys were like I said, these were the rock stars of the comic book industry, and they all, shocked the world by saying we're gonna do this. And so they put out books. Todd McFarlane, who has gone on to do so many other things involved in the pop culture world, he created the character Spawn, and I don't know if you're familiar with Spawn at all, but
I am, yeah.
Yeah. And then you had Rob Liefeld, who is a controversial figure in our industry, even to this day. He, was known for creating co-creator of Deadpool and a bunch of other characters from the X-Men. He was there. Jim Lee, who was known as the X-Men, and now he is one of the big wigs at DC Comics and several other creators as well. So that's when I found comics, and it was a completely new thing. I just fell in love with it. So they had studios where artists would, they were still trying to do that kind of bullpen kind of idea. And so each of those creators kind of created their own studio within Image Comics. And so you'd have some of these young upstarts kind of coming in and learning from the veterans. And so they would help each other. We've got deadlines. And so they would stay up, 3-4 in the morning or not get any sleep at all, and they would be working and helping each other out. So you'd see guys from other studios' names on books because they were all just friends living in like La Jolla, California, and hanging out and tacos and surfing and drawing comics. I mean, that was, to me, that was like the most rock star thing I could think of, in my teens. So
yeah, for sure. That's actually, there's a great documentary about that period of time and those guys, those mavericks, I guess, for lack of a better descriptor, called The Image Revolution. And hell, it's like 10 or 11 years old now, but it's really a worthwhile documentary if you're interested in not only comics in general, but that period of time that you're talking about, because I'm guessing that inspired a lot of people to make them think, what, I can make my own stuff, and it doesn't. Because I assume there were gatekeepers at that stage back in, what was that, in the 90s when they kind of broke free.
And there still are to some degree. I mean, I think there's always going to be somebody kind of holding the line between, just letting literally anybody in, and, kind of trying to, mitigate, that flood of incoming content or whatever. But, there's places today like webtoons and online places that you can just sign up and publish your own webcomic online. You don't have to have any credentials at all.
Kind of like a Substack for comic books.
There's major artists and people who are veterans of the comic industry who put up their own stuff through webtoons, because it's a great place to give people who are looking for comics who may not have a lot of coin have access and to be able to read and discover and maybe be inspired to do their own, or just to fall in love with that storytelling medium.
Well, now you've done work for the big two. You've done work for Marvel and DC, and
Mhm.
I can remember back when my daughter was taking art lessons from you in your house, that you were doing at least a little bit of that work then.
Mhm.
When and how did you break into get past those gatekeepers, Colton?
So yeah, what's interesting is it seems like, and this goes for my experience with the music industry as well. It's hard to get in for the first time, but once you kind of crack that door open, if you can manage to impress, or not even necessarily impress, but just not completely fail at what you're doing,
Right?
fall on your face, that the door is a whole lot easier to keep open, and then eventually invites start to happen. So I had a few friends and colleagues in the art industry who were doing work for Topps and Upper Deck, the trading card companies.
Oh, okay.
And most people would probably know them from like baseball or football or hockey cards, the sports things. But there is an entire, and you can go as far as just like Walmart or Target and look right by the registers, and there's usually a whole slew of not only sports cards but non-sports cards. So like your Magic the Gathering gaming cards,
Right.
or Pokemon cards, and then next to those you're going to find like the Walking Dead trading cards, or you're going to find all of these other non-sport related things. One of the things that those trading card companies will do with their non-sports cards specifically, I'm not familiar with their sports card stuff. That I was never that sports guy.
Right.
But with the non-sports, they would do like, they call them hit cards, and hits are just like bonus cards that are not part of the regular trading card set, that are like incentives to buy like
Gotcha.
packs. So you might get like a really cool special card. Back when I was collecting non-sports trading cards, it was like X-Men cards, or like, the
Right.
Avengers or whatever. And sometimes you'd get like a hologram card or something that was kind of glitzy, and it was like, ooh, this is like a rare one, right? And so you would think they're worth more money, or that they're just a cool part of the collection. Somebody has to create those things, and one of the
Sure.
things that they do now is they create actual pieces of art. So they'll send you blank trading cards as an artist, and you draw on them. You can paint on them, do them in color, whatever. And so then you send those back, and those are the actual pieces that are inserted into random packs of cards in these sets. So you'll obviously, there have to be many of these things created in order to fulfill demand for this kind of
Sure. Yeah.
product. So I started because a friend of mine said, you'd be really good at this. The pay is terrible, but it might get you in the door somewhere. And
Right. That's how you get in, right?
yeah, and so I was like, cool, sign me up. So my first set was a Spider-Man trading card set from Upper Deck. It was the Fleer Ultra Spider-Man. I did like 100 cards, and I painted and drew, every Spider-Man character I could think of, and it
Wow.
was
So
great.
individually, you did that many.
Yeah. Yep. And again, pay is terrible. I can't disclose how much it is, but
Sure.
it's way less than a minimum wage. Let me tell you. So yeah, you get paid by the card, and but they had a certain level of quality that they wanted, and not only that, but the one of the other aspects of that is you're never sure that when you do a card, it's actually going to be accepted. They have to look it over and approve. Or,
Right.
oh, this guy totally painted naked Spider-Man. We can't have that
We
pack of
can't do
cards. So
that.
yeah, we're done with, no.
You
This
can't see
guy's not
Peter Parker's butt. That's not
right.
good.
Yeah. So if you got rejected, you weren't getting paid. So you might have put an hour or 2 hours into a trading card. So if you did 100 cards, but only 50 of them got accepted, you wasted your time on 50 cards. So, you're nervous about that, especially somebody like me who's starting out in this, but they loved it. And I got invited to I did so many cards with those
Is that
guys.
right?
Uh, and then eventually that led to having enough of a repertoire that I could talk to the guys over at Topps. And same thing, they had the license for Star Wars, which has always been my biggest fandom that I've loved. And
Yeah, you have some great Star Wars art, by the way. We'll get to that hopefully in this interview, but you do some really cool Star Wars stuff, I
oh,
gotta say.
that's awesome of you to say. And yeah, so I started doing my official Star Wars work with them. And after my very first set with them, I got an invite to create what's called a base card. And a base card is the cards that they reproduce for the set. So it's not
Ah,
just
okay.
one off, like, here's this Emperor Palpatine card that I drew, and hopefully some collector finds it and likes it. It's more of, I'm one of the cards that you will most likely pull in a pack of cards
Ah,
consistently. And that's something that apparently they don't just offer to first
right.
time people with their company, that you have to show that your work is exceptional. And so I felt very fortunate to get that. And then that led to the overall license with Lucasfilm, because when you are at that level, apparently it's a different game than just the regular
Mm.
sketch card artists. And so that's kind of how I got my foot in the game there. And the same thing was with Marvel. The Upper Deck license leads to bigger opportunities within the larger company.
So in terms of the time frame, then when did you submit your first special cards? When did you get a chance to do that?
Yeah, I would say probably around 2015 was when I first, so about a decade ago. Yeah, that would have been when I had my first real, like, professional gig with Upper Deck, and then it later came to Star Wars, and since then I've done The Walking Dead. I did stuff for Stranger Things season 2. I've done the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. I worked stuff for The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi, as well as the Han Solo movie.
And when you say you're doing those things, are you talking still about trading card type of art or other
There's
stuff as
some
well?
of that, and then there's some of it is, depending on which property is. I have to be careful what I discuss.
I picture working for Lucasfilm as just page after page of non-disclosure agreements.
There is a lot of that, and the worst part about it, if for me, as a fan, is I'm not allowed to share a lot of that work. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Most of it is stuff that is either pre-production work or is concept related. Um,
Okay.
a couple of times that I've done concept work, which I'm not a concept artist, so those guys work really fast and have like all these amazing shortcuts that they use to be able to quickly produce this stuff, because concept art is all pre-production work. It's stuff that they're working out visually before they commit money and time to
Right.
actual physical resources. We need to know what this alien's going to look like so the prop people can start developing the prosthetics and those kinds of things, or costuming, or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
cool. It's fast and it's loose and it has an energy all on its own, but it's not my speed of work.
right, right, sure.
I'm a perfectionist, as much as I can be, and so pre-production work, I tend to want to overwork it, or I tend to want to make it look super finished, and it doesn't need to be. So it's a whole different ball game for me. But I've done droid designs and things like that
Oh, that's so cool.
that are fun, and
Yeah.
so unfortunately none of my designs have ever been picked, but there's, it's one of those situations where yeah, there's hundreds of people doing work on these projects across continents, and I'm just glad and feel fortunate that I'm part of that process. To me, that's
Yeah, especially being
ultimate
being a
fanboy.
fan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My dad, when he
That's
found out that I got a gig with Lucasfilm, it was right around Christmas time, and I was visiting them in Southern Illinois where they live, and we had to go to the grocery store to pick up inevitably some ingredients for something as we're cooking. And I think I was standing in the bread aisle, and somebody else comes by, and my dad was just so proud. He was like, "Hey, excuse me, can I tell you my son draws Star Wars?" And I was like, "Oh my God, Dad! Like, stop! You're embarrassing me."
that's awesome though. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
it was hilarious. And it's good to, it's fun to impress your parents. My mom's like, "Well, that's great, sweetie. Anyways, where's the butter?"
Well, let's talk a little bit about your original art and your original work, because I know that, and we'll talk. We'll do some plugs here relatively soon, because I want to make sure people know how to find your art. But one of the things that I noticed when I was reviewing your biographical information was that in 2021 you launched something called the Umbra, which
Yep.
I believe was originally a Patreon project, a crowdfunding type of project. What is that exactly? What is the
Yeah.
Umbra, and
So
how can people find it?
yeah, absolutely. So I have always been what it's when you self-judge, you never really know. But I have always been a fairly natural storyteller. I feel like I can just pick things and convey them in a way that I think people seem to enjoy.
Right,
But
right.
I'm not talking their ear off. But so I've always, from the time I was little, I've always loved fantasy. I think my first story that I was ever introduced to was The Hobbit, in terms of like that genre, and I fell in love with it immediately. It's one of those books that I'll reread every few years, and
Yeah,
I get something different out of it because I'm different, not that the story has changed.
right.
And even when I'm watching television or movies or reading a book, I have a very natural like understanding of storytelling. So I wanted to make my own, like a love letter in that genre. So I started the Umbra as a way to kind of do that. I've always kind of liked surrealism as well, and people who are really amazing at that are artists like H.R. Geiger. In filmmaking, you've got David Lynch,
Mhm.
who have always been masters of their particular fields. And so my interests with fantasy and surrealism have kind of blended together in that. And so I started writing the Umbra as kind of like short pulp stories, all that take place in the same world. And now I'm going back and I'm editing them together, and rewriting parts to actually put them together as kind of a novel. And I kind of have it in my head, that I want it to be a trilogy of stories. So that's where it's right now.
Gotcha. What was the project that started in 2021? Was that more an anthology, stories about different kinds of characters or different
Yeah,
type?
so like I always, if I'm, it usually starts with drawing. I will draw something, and then I'll kind of wonder at, like, as I'm in the creation process, I'll go like, well, who is this? What is this character's background, or whatever, right? But I like intuitively want to know more about this character because I want it to have some kind of a life on its own. I tend to do that with everything I draw. And so I drew this redheaded elf, and decided, like, well, who is she? What is she going to be? And so I created kind of this story around it, and that was the real impetus for the Umbra. And
I see.
yeah, and so the Umbra is basically like, in the story, the Umbra is the big bad, and it's a no one really knows what it is specifically. They just know what it does, and that is that it causes massive destruction wherever it goes. It's kind of like any like a almost like a magical localized weather event, where it
Hmm.
comes in and it's destructive, but it's a little more insidious than just that. It seems like it is alive, and it grows, and it's like kind of like breathes, and it's basically had to be contained for thousands of years, and it's people actually now don't even think it's real. They think it's kind of gone into the realm of myth because it hasn't appeared
Uh,
for so long. But the wards that contain it are weakening, so to speak, and
gotcha.
it's starting to make its presence known again. So that kind of
And
gets
will that be kind of the core then of this trilogy that you're talking about? Will be
yes,
different characters dealing with
yes,
this
and
thing?
yeah, exactly. And it's so there's kind of like tales intermingled in there of reluctant messiah type characters who have this thing thrust upon them and don't want the responsibility of having to be that savior figure. There's other people who are using it as an opportunity to get things that they want, manipulate
Hmm.
people and things for their own greed, as we see people do time and time again in our world. Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah, so there's kind of a lot of like reflections of reality in here, but it's not bent to tell a specific tale about our reality here.
Gotcha,
um,
gotcha.
but I wrote it as a I just wanted to write it. I don't have like any major aspirations to go find a publisher for it.
Okay.
I wrote it to say that I could do it and to say that I did it. And it was for me first. And if anybody else found it interesting, I had already achieved success in my eyes. It was for me, and that was enough. But people have found the art that I've created for that, and have really latched onto that and enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
And that's the added bonus to me. That's the icing.
And I think you have done some more than I. The last time I saw you face to face was actually at C2E2
Yeah.
last year. And if I'm not mistaken, you were at that point at your table, you did have an art book that you'd published that's set in that world
Yeah.
with probably my favorite title of a book in the last, I don't know, 30 years or so. The title is Elf as Fuck.
Yep. Yep.
And the subtitle is The Elven Women of Andor, or excuse me, Ardaresh, right?
Yes,
Ardaresh.
sir. Yep.
But that appeared to be set in that world, and I thumbed through that while I was there. And again, I like your art, I like your style very much, but it definitely seemed to be setting the groundwork for some interesting stories to be told, for sure.
Yeah. And what's funny is that book came out of a like period where I was kind of going, what I've never done artistically. I've never finished a sketchbook. I'm not one of those artists who has like troves, like a whole library of finished, polished, lovely sketchbooks for like, people who don't come into my studio to peruse,
Right.
and see, oh, look at all your beautiful work. It's like those don't exist for me. I get about 6 pages into a sketchbook, do an awful drawing, and then it's like, well, this whole book now needs to go into the fire because
Oh
no one
no.
can ever see this. And so I wanted to get out of my head with that and decided I was going to limit my options creatively so that there was a focus to the book, and it would be elves because I love drawing elves, and then it was going to be profiles because it was just easy to do. I could have them facing each other on the left and right pages, and it would give me an opportunity to play with anatomical variation and hairs, different hairstyles, costuming, clothing, whatever, tattoos. And it turned into this whole thing. And I finished the sketchbook. It was like, yay, I did that. But now I have these, 150 drawings of elves. What do I do with these? And so I decided to put them into a book. I just had no idea of what I was going to call it. Because it's like, I don't want to call it the Umbra because that's the story, but these are inspired
Right.
by that. And so I ended up calling it Elf as Fuck because I was like, well, they're elves, but they're not your traditional like Tolkien elves. They're not, they're elves. They're elf as fuck, but they're not, like pretty. And I was like, oh, hang on, I'll call it that. And then, you know, I knew it was going to ruffle a few feathers or turn some eyes because the F bomb, but
Sure, sure.
it made sense to me. And in fact, I get more comments on the book in general and the art from it because people see that and they're like, what is that? And then they want to come over and check it out.
Let's turn our attention, at least for a little bit, to the fact that not only are you a visual artist, but you're a musician. And I didn't realize that so much, again, because my original introduction to you was as a teacher of art, and I knew you were involved in what seemed to be very secret things at that time in terms of working in the industry, and I got very curious way back then.
Yeah.
But you've also been working as a touring musician. You've recorded, as I understand it. I know you've toured the Midwest at the very least. Tell us a little bit about your music.
Yeah. So in oh God, 1997, I met a group of musicians. My now wife, Heather, was the singer of this band that were going by her name. It was like solo act, and then she had the backup band. And they started to just play local shows. I was a young musician myself. I was a guitar player. I was studying music at JJC here, Joliet Junior College, which has it did at the time, I'm not sure of its reputation now, but it did have a really amazing music education program. So I was studying music theory and all of that stuff. They were doing what I wanted to do. I wanted initially, art was something that I loved to do on the side, and I never thought I could make it something. So, I chose the other harder path of music.
Right, yeah, because it's so easy to make it in the music industry.
Right,
Right?
okay. Whoever set me up, with my internal programming as a child really did me a disservice to art and music as two vocations here.
Right.
You want a textbook, he's never going to do anything with his life story. Just look my direction. But yeah, there's so they started doing stuff. I actually started dating Heather, and then kind of got roped into the band that way. They needed a keyboard player in the band. They didn't need another guitar player. And because of music theory, I knew how to play the piano. So I thought, sure, maybe I can eventually get to play guitar in this band, not just keyboard. But I was like, sure, I'll be the keyboard player. So I actually had to go buy a keyboard because I didn't have one. I was a guitar player.
Funny.
And so I went and bought one of those and started hanging out with the band and getting to know them. And they were all really great guys. And I'm still friends with all of them to this day, all these years later. And we just started playing small gigs here, and we would spend a couple nights a week in like 3 or 4 hour rehearsals. We took it seriously. We didn't ever want to do covers. We wanted to do our own original music, and we understood that it was going to be a very slow and hard climb with whatever we wanted to do as a result, because we weren't playing songs people knew. It was like you're buying into us 100% with original content. And this is pre YouTube, this is pre MySpace, so this is all stuff that was like, our website was like danielswindow.com, or no, it was like geocities.com/tilde band name, kind of thing.
Right.
Eventually, everything grew out of that. But yeah, so I spent the next 20 years on the road, and we eventually got signed to a record label, and we put out our first record and toured. I think the only 2 states I haven't been to are Alaska and Hawaii, just because of how there. But yeah, California, New York, Florida, everywhere in between. Texas, we did a lot of time in Texas, especially around like Fort Worth and Dallas, down in Houston, Austin, San Antonio. I think one of our biggest gigs we ever did was we played at the Houston Astrodome, or at least what used to be the Astrodome.
Right.
About 12,000 people.
Wow.
Let me caveat this. We were not the draw.
That's okay though. That's still impressive.
But it was great because the stage was in the center of the field, and it was a closed dome. And so we were there providing the music for this kind of other event that was going on. And but yeah, surrounded by the whole floor was just surrounded with people, and so we got to do some. It was incredible.
Some rock and roll stuff, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Which was amazing. And so we toured and recorded. We put out like 6 or 7 records. Eventually just kind of said we never officially broke up. We just stopped booking gigs. And so technically I could go any minute now.
Yeah, it could happen right here. You could announce right now.
Right now, we're going on tour again, guys.
What was the period of time when you were doing that, when you were touring all over the country?
So that would have been early 2000s and then the mid 2000s, 2010s. We really started in earnestly touring right around 99 when our first record came out. So that first 2 years was writing, building relationships, traveling. We went to Nashville a lot to meet with musicians and producers and A&R guys at record labels. We were constantly putting ourselves in front of them, constantly facing rejection, and just enough to go to show tenacity and to show that whether they were part of it or not, we weren't going to stop doing what we were doing. And I think that's really what set us apart. It wasn't a middle finger to anybody. It was we're just going to keep doing what we do. When next time we see you, we'll have fresh songs for you, and maybe one of these songs will hit, and they'll take an interest in us. And eventually that's what happened. But you can't be afraid of like people saying no. I mean, what does no do? We never took no as a permanent thing. We took it as a not right now. not right now. That's not
Yeah.
what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this other thing, and you just don't happen to be that, you know. And so that's what we would do. We would just keep doing what we did, and eventually it hit. And so we
And
did
it
that.
sounds like that also, it sounds like there was some overlap there between what you were doing with the band and then what you had described on the art side of things.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I, I went
that those
back
things
to
were,
yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of overlap because there was a point where I was, you know, we had been doing what we were doing for a number of years, and then I decided I wanted to like, hey, I want to actually go to school and learn how to do this illustration thing properly. So we're touring. I'm going to school Monday through Friday, and on
wow.
Fridays after school would get out, I would hop in, like take the L from school downtown Chicago. I went to the American Academy of Art, um, in
Mhm.
Chicago, and I would hop the L to the airport, fly out to wherever the band was. I would play the shows for the weekend, get up at an ungodly hour on Monday morning, fly back to the airport, take the train right from the airport to school,
Right.
go to school all day, come home, and then when we in between our gigs, because even when we were on tour, we weren't playing like Monday night in Reno or something.
Right.
We were home. We would fly out on weekends for shows. The majority of our tours were Friday, Saturday, Sunday things, so we would still come home in between. And so I would teach music lessons to supplement gigs.
Ah,
And so I would get off the train. I'd be home at 4:15. My first lesson would be at 4:30 in the evening. I would work till 9 o'clock, and then I would have 2 hours to myself where I would basically just die.
right. Right.
And
Holy
then
cow.
I'd go to bed, get up. I'd be on the train at 6:40 in the morning to Chicago every day, and that was four
Do it
years,
all over.
4 years of my
Wow.
life. And so yeah, it was. I was dedicated. I wanted it to happen. I wanted those things. And when you want something like that, you find a way to make it work.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit, only because I know you have what sounds to me like a really interesting musical project that you're involved with now.
Yeah.
Can you describe what 815 Project is?
Yeah, so the 815 is a musical performance opportunity for young musicians, people who want to be in bands or just want to see what it's like. And they can sign up. They can go to the 815music.com and they can sign up. And we do events every other month. And it's at a local metal and hip hop club here in Chicago called The Forge. And the Forge has been very welcoming to us. So they give us the space, and we do events on usually it's the last Sunday of the month. So each month has a theme. This coming January, we have an event, and it's Mixtape Madness is what we called it. And it's where the house band members, those of us who actually are the musicians who provide the band for any of these singers or other musicians who want to perform,
Oh,
we picked a band each that we love, and the performers have to choose one of those bands, and then they can pick any song by that band to perform. We will learn all the songs, and then for the event day, we come together, and there's 20 songs, and we knock them out, and we have the kids get a chance to play on a real stage with real lights and fog and real sound with a real band.
ah,
And it's great. So they learn the ropes of what it's like to be a performer, but not just in the performance. It's in the dedication to the practice, the showing up on time, the etiquette, the treating others with respect. It's not an ego trip. We're not here to praise you for your skills, and then you get to just walk off and go home when you're done. You're going to sit around and support the other musicians. You're going to learn what it's like to actually be a part of this scene in a
wow, that's
productive way.
really cool.
Yeah, and so we do that, and we've been doing that now for a number of years. Gives me an opportunity to perform, and they're not always songs that I would choose, but I get
Right.
exposed to new music that way, and I stay somewhat current with trends and with band names, and you know. I often despair that I'm at that age now where I don't
Yeah.
understand young people music. I'll look at like,
That
oh,
feeling
who's
doesn't
coming to
get easier.
Lollapalooza, and I
Yeah,
look and I recognize three names.
I know. I know. It's so depressing when you see that poster come out and you're like, I don't know the first three lines. Those used to be, those were the big ones, right? You didn't know
Those are
who, I
the
don't
those are
know
the
who
ones that are the draw, and I'm like, oh my god, well, I
exactly.
know that micro band over there because they're
Right.
finally at the point where they're no longer the big guys.
Yeah, yeah. I've been to that venue. I saw a band called Super Suckers there. Not
Nice.
oh, geez, probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. I think about
Okay.
it, but that's a
Yeah,
fun venue, and I can only imagine
it's
how much fun the kids must have getting to be
oh
involved in
man,
that.
and it's amazing too because like the staff are so kind and so nice, and it's like the opposite of what you would think of. Like I have found that people who are fans of metal and hard rock genuinely are some of the most kind and warm people I've ever met, despite their exterior appearance. And it's like you can even as to tie in the illustration stuff, even Stranger Things with Eddie Munson, you know,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
the freak, so to speak, and how genuinely loving and kind and empathetic of a human he was. And that's a direct mirror to the reality that I've experienced.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And yeah, so these kids get that chance, and they come. A lot of these performers come back month after month, and so we get to see them grow from shy, this is my first time on stage, a nervous performer, to enthusiastic participant who would do things that I would never assume was in them to do.
That's
And so to see the growth is one of the biggest reasons I do that.
yeah.
Supporting young musicians, helping them learn how to let loose and be what they want to be.
And that, if anyone is interested in attending or supporting that program, you can go to the815music.com.
Absolutely.
It's numbers 815, not spelled out. This is as good a time as any. What else can we plug in terms of your music or your art? Are there other places to go to see your work or to hear your work as far as that's concerned?
As far as music, if anybody's interested, they can go to my band's name was Daniel's Window, and they can go to danielswindow.com. You can find it on Spotify, on Apple Music. You can stream it, you can buy it, you can do whatever you want.
Nice.
You can do it on the website or through either of those streaming services. And then my website is thecalebking.com. The other Caleb King that I think owns calebking.com is a adult male performer.
Okay.
And so I needed to distinguish myself
Sure.
from that. In fact, early on when I got my website, I would get emails for him, people thinking I was him, which is how I discovered that this was an issue. And
Wow.
yeah, it was. I won't go into details, but there were some wild emails that I've received over the years. Occasionally, like maybe once every year or so, one will come through, and I'll be like, "Yeah, this is a different Caleb. You don't want me for this." So, and then my Instagram and Threads. I'm pretty active on Threads nowadays, but it's at the Caleb King.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I would say, if you go to thecalebking.com, it's a great place to see examples of all your different kinds of work.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a store, so that you can buy prints and the one thing that I didn't bring up, but that I would like to is you had a book that came out. I think it was pre-COVID, although I don't think I saw it until after COVID at C2E2, called Iconic: The Art of Caleb King. And it in particular is a great collection of those kind of vertical paintings that you've done that I mentioned just briefly when I was introducing you. I love that approach. And in fact, in C2E2 since then, I've noticed that other artists have maybe copped a little bit of your style, truthfully. And I've seen similar things.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch. I've been doing these vertical paintings since probably mid 2014. They started just as an exercise for me. I wanted to do something in a completely different format to really focus. I do minimalistic stuff in my paintings, and so I want everything to be important then, because when you have fewer lines, then every line becomes more important. And so my paintings took on this form of a large, like a long, narrow canvas, picture window, so to speak, and it instantly got people's attention. whether they purchased them or not, people were looking, and I became quickly visually recognized, um,
Yes.
you know, by people at conventions, and I started getting invites to other cons that I was not able to get into before,
Ah,
and whatnot, because it was something completely different and unique and good all at the same time. And now, yeah, I've seen probably half a dozen to a dozen artists who are
kind of
now
copycat.
using the
Yeah.
format, but not, not as a criticism of their work at all, but nobody does it like I do.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
I'm glad for that, because if you're going, it's a rectangle, people. This isn't like I'm not reinventing a wheel.
Right.
I'm using my personal aesthetic and my personal artistic expressions to create stuff that I love, but in a way that I would be okay putting it on my own wall.
Yeah, yeah. I recommend the book. I own the book. Prior to that, prior to the book coming out, my boys both wanted and did purchase at the convention some of the superhero stuff you've got in
Yeah.
that vertical style, and some of it's hanging on walls in our basement, along with a lot of other comic book art and stuff. So,
You humble me, sir. Thank you.
no, but absolutely go to thecalebking.com if you want to see examples of that work. It's a great place to find your art, and for that matter, to buy it if you're interested. So what we want to do next is what we always love to do with our guests is come up with a special playlist, a third song in playlist. As we've done in the past, we ask Caleb to come up with a theme, and then the three of us have chosen songs that fit within that theme. The theme that you suggested, I think, is really cool, Caleb, and it's not one that we've done before, and it's certainly not exactly like this one. First of all, why don't you tell us what your theme was and the idea behind it?
So I love making playlists, and I try to make ones to fit various moods, especially as I'm working. I want something to keep me motivated. So, and then there are those days where you're not feeling so great. The world is kind of beating you up a little bit, and music to me has always been a thing that just always spoke directly to the core of my being, and always felt very deeply with music. So I wanted something that was kind of like a songs that helped you keep on going. Music that saved you, that kept you from the edge of despair, or just helped you get through a rough day, right? So
Mhm.
whatever that is in your life, these are the songs that helped you get there.
I think this is an outstanding theme for a playlist, and certainly is one of those that I have a feeling I will be listening to again and again in the future. Although Chris is not here with us, he did send me his song. So we're ready to go through. As we always do, we'll have you start and finish the playlist. So, what's your first song for Songs That Save Me?
Sure. The first song is from a band that I discovered just completely on my own. I had no friends, still don't have any friends who listen to this band. They're a kind of an independent band on some level from Europe, and they're called Editors. And they have this song called Sugar, and the intro is this just really amazing bass line that kind of sets the overall groove for the song, between the drummer and the bass player. The guitar comes in, and it's not the kind of guitar you would expect to happen there. And the singer's voice is this lovely, rich baritone voice. Oh God, I mean, I even just thinking now about the song, it's definitely one of my favorite songs I've ever heard. Um,
Yeah,
but the lyric in the chorus that just absolutely gripped me was, he's got this line. He says, "You swallowed me whole with just a mumbled hello." Like, this guy fell head over heels
yeah,
hopelessly for this person, and they barely paid attention to him. It didn't take anything. There was just something about that person. And I mean, God, that's magic in a bottle for me. So this song
awesome.
has since the first time I heard it, this song will always be a song that just was like, for all of those things, will just keep me pumped.
Well, Chris's first song, second song on the playlist, is going to be a song titled "What Went Down." by Foles. According to Chris's notes that I have in front of me, he feels that this one perfectly captures a lot of frustration and anger that he's feeling these days. So that'll be number two. For me, the third song on the playlist, my first choice, and there's kind of a little bit of theme, at least when I first started thinking about this, was I tended to think of songs that got me through bad relationship situations, breakups, etc. And I kind of couldn't get my head away from that. So one of them, the first one, is the song "You'll Accompany Me" by Bob Seger. That was from the album Against the Wind from 1980, and it was probably right around 1980 or 81 when I was replaying this over and over and over again because my summer romance had fallen through. The girl I fell in love with, who spent the summer in DuBois, PA, where I was living at the time. We lived kind of on a lake. Her family had a summer house, and then she was gone. And I must have listened to "You'll Accompany Me" 1,000 times before school started that year. So, but it got me through, and that's what I was thinking about when you suggested songs that saved me. Which now takes us to your second choice. Caleb, what do you have for the list?
I'm going to go with Fake Plastic Trees by Radiohead. Just a song about living an inauthentic life. The idea of fake plastic trees with a fake plastic watering can and watering a rubber Japanese plant, and living, like she's the woman in the story in the song is inauthentic, and she's married to a guy who did plastic surgery on women in but the line, but gravity always wins in the end, and
yeah.
in the way that Tom York sings is already haunting enough as it is, but this song, the combination of the rhythm and the chord changes and the just emotive nature of everything just was like, oh God, yeah, I yearn for authenticity too. So
nice. All right, Chris's next song is, to the surprise of no one who listens to this podcast, a duet between Johnny Cash and Rodney Crowell, which is a cover of "I Walk the Line." Chris is a overboard Rodney Crowell fan, I guess is how I would describe it. And he did once tell a story about how this song helped him get his first senior management position in higher ed. And it's an interesting story, and I could see why this would be a high point for him in terms of this playlist. Yeah, it's very cool. Which takes us then to my next song, which again, a song about love going bad. The nice thing about this one is that there was a happy ending, because this was about me breaking up with Dawn, my wife. We had a rough patch right towards, I think, the end of it was early 90s, and we both looked like we might be going our separate ways, and it crushed me. And that led to me listening to the song "She's Already Made Up Her Mind" by Lyle Lovett from Joshua Judge's Ruth, which came out in 92. 92 was the year I graduated from law school, and I think it must have come out early in the year, because I think we kind of broke up in like late winter, and I just can remember laying on a couch. I was crashing at a friend's house for the last semester of law school, and I was in his house playing his stereo and playing this song over and over from like 11 till 2 a.m. And finally he said, "Dude, you gotta stop this. You gotta cut it out. We need to get some sleep." So after about 3 days of it, he made me stop. But then I just went into my room and listened to it. So my song is "She's Already Made Up Her Mind," which is, by the way, a beautiful I Love It song. Just a great song. All right, that takes us to your next choice.
I'm going to say the song "Hoodoo" by Muse. And it's a haunting piano melody. And the singer, Matt Bellamy, who's also the guitar player in the band, he is a virtuoso. What's the word I'm looking for? He's a virtuistic. I don't know. He's really good at the piano.
He's good, yeah.
And the song that he kind of ends, the lyric he ends the song with, "Will stay with me forever." And it's this line. He says, "I've had recurring nightmares that I was loved for who I am, I missed the opportunity to be a better man. Just the idea that love should not just accept us as we are, but should also push us to be better versions of ourselves. That if love is a virtue, then virtues call for the best out of us, not the baseline, and not especially not the worst. So the idea that we all want to be accepted for who we are, but also we as a participant in a relationship must also seek to better ourselves and to better the other person. So that to me will just gut me in a moment of weakness and will make me want to be a better person.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So Chris's final choice for this playlist is the song Letter to LA from Live from Liberty Lunch by Joe Ely. If I were a betting man, I would bet that he added this at the last minute because just only probably 12 or 18 hours ago, we found out that Joe Ely passed away. And he was a giant in the world of Americana and alt country music, Texas music. His live album, Live from Liberty Lunch, was just amazing. And he's one of the first artists that Chris and I kind of started listening to back in the day when we were discovering this music. So we're very sorry to see him go. It is certainly very possible Chris would have chosen this song regardless, but I'm guessing it had a little bit to do with that. But as he says, this particular song was as responsible as any song he's heard for making him a Joe Ely fan, and was pivotal in his move to Americana music. So that will be his final song for the playlist. My final song is the most maybe political song for me on this list. It's the song Hope the High Road by Jason Isbell from Nashville Sound. This is a song that got me through and continues to get me through when I get down about this current social and political situation. I just think the best lyric from this song is, I used to want to be a real man. I don't know what that even means. Now I just want you in my arms again, and we can search each other's dreams. It is just it's just amazing song that captures just the frustration that you can feel at certain points when you read the paper or look at the internet. And it is definitely a song for me that saved me. And it is definitely the right song for this playlist.
My last song is called Destroya by My Chemical Romance, which seems like an avant-garde musical choice for me. But I love anybody who sings and presents with passion and really means the things that they're singing. And Destroya is a song from the last record that they released, but is probably my favorite record that they did. There's something about that song. I don't know that I can articulate a specific thing, but when I hear that song, I gotta punch it. I gotta push through.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that will finish our playlist. This will be a special playlist. You'll be able to find it wherever you stream your music. It will be called Songs That Saved Me, a third song in playlist. Caleb, I cannot thank you enough for appearing on the podcast, for talking to me for a little bit.
It has been my pleasure, sir.
Yeah, thanks for the playlist theme. This is going to be one of our good ones, I think. I will let you go because I know you have things to do. But by the time we finish up this episode, I will definitely repeat your plugs so people can find your art and your music. And we wish you good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you, Tom. It's been a pleasure. And say hello to your co-host for me.
I sure will. Thanks.
Take care.
Take care. So once again, if you're looking for art and music from Caleb King, you can find his art at thecalebking.com. You can find him on Instagram and Threads at @thecalebking. His music can be found at simplymusicstudios.com, the815music.com, or danielswindow.com. Please take a look at those sites for his art and his music. And now, returning from a very short hiatus, Chris Derrickson for the rest of the podcast. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. Glad I could make it. Sorry I missed the interview with Caleb, but I'm sure you did a great job.
You would love this dude. We're going to have to bring him back. I probably have 100 more questions to ask him anyway. but he's got some metal in his background, and the art stuff was cool, and I think you would really enjoy it.
When you told me about the metal stuff, I got even more upset that I had to miss it. But
Yeah. Yeah, his whole 815 project thing is really cool. So we'll get him back again sometime soon. And that leads us to our loft of wisdom. You got back just in time for some good quotes.
You better open up your eyes, babe, because fools do get wise.
it is. All right. So what is so Loft of Wisdom is where Tom and I offer up inspiring, funny, important, or just stupid quotes that have come to us in one form or the other. We used to do this when we were in college. We'd write it in Sharpie on our wood-built lofts, and now we're doing it in the interwebs. Put it on our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com.
Yep. So I'll do the first quote, and it's funny because I just changed my mind in the last, I don't know, half hour that it took for me to get from my house to the office this morning. I was listening to a podcast I don't often listen to, and now I'm going to listen to more. It's called The Rewatchables. It's hosted by Bill Simmons, who is kind of a pop culture guy himself, sports guy. Anyway, he now has a podcast called The Rewatchables. It is just what it sounds like. They rewatch old movies, and he's got a group of 2 or 3 people with him. And one of the people, and I couldn't figure out which it was, I can't attribute it to a specific person, as they were reviewing the movie High Fidelity, which is one of my favorites, said, "You shouldn't get therapy, you should DJ." And it's not from the movie, it was his own quote, and I think it's hilarious, and that's what I want to put on the loft this week.
I like it. I'll have to check him out. I like Bill Simmons. He's funny.
Yeah, and this is a really good one. This is only the second episode I've listened to, and it's one of those I think you can pick and choose depending on the movie they're talking about. And the High Fidelity one, I was actually going to send you a link to it anyway, because it's very, it reminds me of you and me talking about stuff like movies and other stuff. I think you'd get a kick out of it. So what's your quote this week?
So I was inspired by the theme that Caleb recommended for the podcast, music that saved us. And I found a quote by somebody named, hold on, let me look up his name, Bruce Springsteen. Do you know him?
Who? What? There's no way he said something I didn't know.
Yeah. It's an awesome quote. I'm not 100% sure where it's from, but it was on the internet, so it has to be real. Bruce said, "The best music is essentially there to provide you something to face the world with." And I think that's just a really perfect quote for both today's episode and the podcast in general. It's all about music, man.
That brings us now to our next segment, which is Staff Picks.
Just around the corner from you.
So this is Tom and I recommending new music, new books, new movies, new TV, or any of those that are new to us. So what's your staff pick this week, Tom?
Yeah, unfortunately, this kind of runs counter to the music that saved me type of songs that we've been talking about throughout the episode. But I discovered an artist named Joe Jordan. He is not an unknown guy by any means, but I will say that the first time I listened to a song by him, he had under 800,000 listeners on Spotify. And then when I looked him up, like 2 weeks later, he was already well over 1 million. So he is gaining popularity very quickly. The song I'm recommending is called "It's All Ending." So not quite as uplifting as some of the other music we've been talking about in this episode. I think he was recommended to me a while back by Jake, my son Jake, although I'm not sure it was this song. And I started listening to his stuff. It just kind of came up randomly. And "It's All Ending" is an up-tempo song, but also kind of depressing, as you can tell by the title, which seems to capture my current emotional state. So I feel like it's a good recommendation for a staff pick. It reminds me a lot of the kind of Josiah and the Bonnevilles, the Cameron Whitcomb sound that I started really getting into last year and I've been listening to a lot this year. He's one of those guys. In this song, he's got a kind of real rapid style delivery of his lyrics, but it's just really an interesting song, interesting lyrics. He's got a very cool voice. And if you want something that's a little bit more upbeat, there's also a love song I've been listening to that he put out this year, which is called To a Beautiful Girl. And so if you kind of listen to them and alternate like I've been doing, you go up and then you go down, you kind of end up in the middle, which is the best we can do, hope for these days. But anyway, my staff pick is It's All Ending by Joe Jordan. You can find him streaming pretty much everywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, etc.
Sounds like a good one. On the other end of the popularity spectrum, unfortunately, is my choice. I've talked about the Roadside Graves many times on this podcast. One of my favorites. That have two really great lead singers who either take turns singing or it's really special when they harmonize. They just put out seems like an ad hoc version of Holiday Road, which everyone would know from Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation. Just
Right.
a great Christmas song and not as sappy as, some of the other stuff. And this song is in the vein of that. It just sounds like they got together in a room, started singing. It's a fun, like I said, almost seems like an impromptu version. And that's the great thing about streaming services. Bands like this can just put out a song that's not attached to an album or anything else, and we can appreciate them for what they are. Unfortunately, they have less than 200 followers on YouTube Music, so word isn't getting out there, but I definitely recommend it to check out Holiday Road by Roadside Graves.
Every episode, we each add a song to our season-long playlist. We are getting to the end of our season 10 playlist. What do you have for this week's episode? Okay.
So my playlist pick definitely ties in with the original playlist recommended by Caleb, Songs That Saved You, but it also ties in to what I'm writing, and it'll be out by the time people hear this. My top 5 songs and albums of the year. I've been going in to listen to albums. A couple songs I'd heard, but not the whole album, by the Vandaliers. Their latest album, Life Behind Bars, is just freaking awesome. And one of the last songs on it is called Dead in a Ditch, which doesn't sound all that uplifting, but some of the lyrics are trying to keep my shit together. Every day is a day, and today was a bitch. Baby, I'm glad that you found me. Without you, I would be dead in a ditch. It's just a really cool song. There's a cool backstory. The lead singer came out as trans. And I think as you listen to this song, some of her struggles with that are threaded throughout the album. And I think it does it Vandaliers are a cowpunk, sort of in your face band, but they do a really nice job of having that energy and the importance of the message from the lead singer. So I would strongly recommend it, and it will definitely be on my top 5 albums of the year.
Oh, cool.
A little hint there.
Yeah, the Vandaliers are a band my daughter Anna really likes a lot. She listens to them quite a bit and kind of discovered them and introduced me to them, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think we've each put 1 or 2 of their songs on various playlists. So I'm all in on them now. This album is really, really great.
Cool. Can't wait. My pick for the playlist for this episode is the song This Year by the Mountain Goats. It's from the album The Sunset Tree, which came out in 2005. I'm only recently getting into the Mountain Goats. They've obviously been around a long time. It's a band that's really driven by the lead singer. He's definitely the driving force. I read a little bit about him in that book about the music business I talked about some time ago. This song is just squarely in the theme of songs that saved me. It almost made the 3 songs, one of the 3 songs I picked for the playlist with Caleb. The refrain through the song is, I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I think my favorite lyrics in the song are, and then Kathy showed up and we hung out, trading swigs from a bottle, all bitter and clean, locking eyes, holding hands, twin high maintenance machines. It really does kind of intertwine the kind of feelings of depression and feelings of wanting to persevere. And it's just a very cool song, very up-tempo. And I'm going to be listening to a lot of Mountain Goats going forward. I'm not quite sure how they eluded me for so long.
Yeah, it's always fun when you find a band that's been around if for no other reason than they have a larger catalog that you can go back and
Yeah.
listen to, which is fun.
And these guys really do too. Going back, I'm going to learn more about them as I go along. This song just somehow, again, it comes through on the algorithm, and I'd read about them. I knew they existed, but I hadn't really listened to them. And in listening to them, realized, yeah, these guys are right up my alley, at least my alley these days. And I'm looking forward to listening to more.
It's a deep, dark alley, dude.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's I call it the Chris Derrickson alley.
We want to thank Caleb King for joining us. I'm very sorry I missed the interview. I hope we can have him back. But this has been a really special moment for us. I know Tom did a great job with the interview. And Caleb, really cool stuff that you're doing. And you can find links to all the various things that Caleb is involved with on thirdsonginpodcast.com on the As Mentioned page.
Third Song In is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Joliet, Illinois. Email us at thirdsongin@gmail.com. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and give us some ideas for future episodes. And also check out the website, which I've mentioned a couple times, but we'll mention again, thirdsonginpodcast.com. Please follow us, rate and review us wherever you listen to the podcast. Download the podcast, share it, tell people about it. Please, let's try to get the word out for 2026. We ask you to check out our playlist. They're on all the streaming services, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and YouTube Music. We have the special playlist like we did today with Caleb. You can find those by searching for Third Song In. That's in each of the titles for all the playlists. You can also find us on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, all the social media stuff. We'll try to keep you posted as to all things Third Song In, but we'll also share information about our past and future guests. As I've already mentioned, you can access our blog on our website. Even better, you can subscribe to our blog on Substack. Every Friday morning, you'd get the latest blog delivered directly to your inbox. We're really proud of what we put out, both on these episodes and on our blogs. So, check it out if you like it. Keep coming back. If you don't, that's fine too. But if you do, maybe share the word a little bit, because I said I think we're putting out some decent stuff out there. Make sure you tune in next week for our season finale and 100th episode. Show favorite Joe Clemente will be joining us to discuss The Simpsons. You've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
With each episode, we're one closer to 100. We asked our friends and former guests to send us a note to let us know what they think about this milestone. Here are a few of those.
Have you ever watched one of those movies that has 17 executive producers? The ones listed last probably don't do much at all, but they still get their name on the credits. I'm so happy that Tom and Chris have honored me to have that type of role in Third Song In. From inspirational rides with Tom to a couple of guest appearances and even some editorial input now and then, it's been a fun ride. I think I've done 1/10,000th of the work that the two of them have done, but either way, it's been a joy to see the evolution of Third Song In and what it's done for my friends Tom and Chris. Love you both. Congrats on 100 episodes, and thanks for letting me play in your sandbox.
This is Doug Storm, former radio host and producer at WFHB in Bloomington, Indiana, and a guy proud to be the finale guest for Season 8 of Third Song In. I knew Tom and Chris way back when we were all just stupid college frat boys. It's nice to see and hear that we've, mostly, moved on from that mindset. It's a hard one to shake. Chris and I were roommates at WashU, and, frankly, he generally made me nervous, but mostly because he listened to Y&T and stuck out his tongue a lot. Tom and I really never talked. Maybe we postured to each other. Find out in episode 10 of Season 8. I'd say this podcast conversation was the most Tom and I have ever talked. It was nice. I hope it happens again. What a great way to catch up. It's a lot of fun listening to them now as men talking about new things in art, community, and music, as well as getting to hear from old friends in the process. The past and present rolled into one. This podcast is like Chris's notion of the Third Song In. Congrats on 100 episodes, as great as every album's third song in.
Hi, Tom and Chris. This is Mike Trisna. I just wanted to say congratulations on your 100th episode of Third Song In. It is an amazing podcast, and I really enjoyed my time on it. And even more so, I've enjoyed listening to some of your other guests. And the one thing that has done for me is everything that I thought I knew about music, I did not. Listen to everybody explain why they picked their songs. It's one of the most amazing things I've seen in a long time. Well, heard in a long time. Thank you, and congratulations again.